So we're cop watching right now. We're by Old Soul. A black man has been pulled over and he's been sat out of his car because he's on probation. So they're searching his car. They called for backup and one of the officers is calling us out by our names.
It's the president of Black Lives Matter.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Give a shout out.
Black Lives Matter!
I just do it whenever I see people getting pulled over to make sure that people are safe. And I do it for everybody. It doesn't matter what color they are. I just know that if somebody is not watching, it's highly likely that something really bad could happen to them. The police in this city have killed a lot of people.
Justice, no peace, no justice, no peace.
There's no justice. It's just us.
Basic model of Law and Order, and millennials probably don't watch that old show, but there are two sides to the criminal justice system.
The police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
But in simple terms, a prosecutor carries a lot of discretion and has a lot of power. They have the ability to bring charges against someone, decide whether or not somebody goes into custody, whether or not they go to prison, whether or not there'll be fines, whether or not a person will have a record. They have the sole discretion to employ those methods. There's only two ways that you can really change the criminal justice system: through legislation, or two, voting in or voting out a prosecutor whose policies you don't like.
Hey! Show me your hands! Stop! Show me your hands! Good, good, good!
An officer guns down a man in his family's South Sacramento backyard. The family of Stephen Clark now mourning.
Do the right thing. We will never let you forget the name of Stephen Clark until we get justice.
I also understand that there is a lot of anger.
Say his name! Say his name!
A lot of frustration.
Freedom! Freedom!
All these racist ass cops!
We don't need them! Need them!
And quite honestly, there's a lot of confusion in our community about what is happening.
Our street! We ain't going nowhere. Our street! It ain't over. Our street!
I've been working on a joke. A guy walks into his boss's office and says, "Hey, I would like to take your job from you." That's as far as I've gotten on that joke.
I've known her for 20 years. I know she's a dedicated public servant. It was a difficult conversation, but given the changes I think we need to make, it was a conversation I had to have. The problems of mass incarceration, the failed drug wars, or the school-to-prison pipeline. The police didn't create that problem. Prosecutors did that. I did that. None of that made you safer, it didn't save you any money, and there was a terrible human cost. And now I'm here to fix it.
Black lives matter! 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 Black lives matter!
All power to the people.
All power to the people!
Since she's been in office in 2015, 22 lives have been taken by law enforcement, so we have 22 tombstones out here, and the community are going to decorate them.
The Stephen Clark case should not be seen in a vacuum.
Another young black man murdered by our cowardly police department.
I'm sick of seeing people die that look like me in my city, the city that I grew up in, the city that I love. This has to stop. This has to stop now.
There is a history of officer-involved shootings and the handling of those cases that has led us to where we're at now. One good example, there was a case called Joseph Mann. Back in 2016, he was killed up in the north area of Sacramento, and it was a very controversial shooting.
Get on the ground, put the knife down!
Sacramento has done nothing in the last year and a half to prove to my family that there's justice. There's no justice. There's just us. There's no justice.
It was a lot that people didn't know about Joe. Joe wasn't just some homeless person on the street. He loved dogs, especially dogs that were bigger than him. He was a hard worker. He loved nature, he loved hiking and doing all kind of stuff, backpacking. And
loved children, his nieces and nephews. He was a kid at heart. He always playing with them. They see Uncle Joe come and they light up. Here come Uncle Joe, here come Uncle Joe, because they knew that he was gonna play with them. Right now, it's an empty spot. It's empty, and he's so missed.
The first officers on the scene, they tried to de-escalate it. They didn't try to initiate it. Officer Tennis and Officer LaZoya, within 1 minute of them arriving, and the first things that came out of their mouth was, F this guy, run him over.
Fuck this guy.
If you're here to protect and serve, how do you use that type of language? How do you come to the scene of anything with that mindset?
I just would like justice. And justice for me is charges being brought up. That's the justice for me. Them being put in front of their peers, and to be honest, for me, even if their peers said not guilty, the process. Be fair. Be legitimate. And for me, until I get justice, I'm not going nowhere. I'm not gonna go nowhere.
It's my family of my own siblings to advocate for the next family so that they don't have to go through this. And here we are moving forward a year and a half later with the Stephon Clark situation. And here's another young man gunned down by Sacramento County when he didn't have to be.
And so part of what you're seeing today has been building. And it's not just the Joseph Mann case, it's been going on for a long time. And I can tell you this, it's not just Anne-Marie Schubert. If we're looking at that problem systemically, there is a relationship between law enforcement and the district attorney's office that a lot of people think is too cozy.
Most of our local officials have received endorsements and donations from local law enforcement associations.
For the record, $13,000 were donated in the immediate aftermath of the Stephon Clark shooting. I can tell you that that doesn't feel right to anybody.
Should people have a problem with the perception of the police union contributions to you 2 days after the Clark shooting? I mean, have you thought about giving that money back?
Well, let me say it this way, because I'm not going to talk about the campaign.
Everybody understands that, someone who is in a position of power, who receives a lot of money from people, should not be in the business of determining whether or not they get in trouble. Everyone understands that there's a conflict there.
So that controls her relationships, her loyalties. We're not going to see convictions, and we're not going to see charges filed if she's continuing to befriend the people that she's needing to hold accountable. She is close to Scott Jones.
Scott. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Thank you for inviting me. Obviously, I'm at ground zero for the sanctuary state for California.
It's time for Sheriff Scott Jones to move on. The problems that he has been a part of, including lawsuits, he's had conflicts with people in his office, he's had conflicts with Black Lives Matter.
We've been trying to hold Scott Jones accountable. He takes that personal, and that's petty. He wrote a letter specifically to me, and he basically attacked me. His language was very abusive, but he basically just said that I wasn't a reliable source of leadership in the Black community, as if he has clout in that area. It was very vulgar and it was very personal. So he's taking this personally, and it's not personal. It's not about him. This is about the sheriff department and policing.
We are at a point where it's time for him to move on. When thinking about who would make a good alternative, you would be looking for someone that was eminently qualified, but also had a progressive look on where we should be taking law enforcement. And that obvious choice is Milo Fitch.
You know, it's time for criminal justice reform here in our county, and I didn't see another viable candidate to step up and run against Scott Jones, who does not really embrace the values of our county. I started in 1981, and like most law enforcement officers, it was all about how many arrests did you get today, and it was more of a competition versus really trying to determine what the best solution and the outcome was for the problem. You know, and I learned before midway through my career that wasn't necessarily the right way to do business. I think that there's a lot of solutions out there that we're just not exploring.
This is a man who has given his life to trying to be a law enforcement officer with integrity.
We just endorsed a good man named Noah Phillips. One of the things I like about Noah is that he doesn't need me or anyone else to coach him on what is wrong about our justice system. I believe we can help oust your current DA there in Sacramento, and nationally, I'm gonna need all of us to do that together. It's a local race, but it has national importance.
Change is hard. I know it is, but we need it because nothing is changing, you know, the problems that we see. So change we must.
But we must be willing as a community to have meaningful conversations, dialogues, debates, and ultimately decisions on how do we move forward.
First of all, we've been having conversations for years now. We're tired of conversations. We need actions. We're their constituents, and they are elected officials, and they're unwilling to listen to us.
The reality is that there's been a break in the trust with our community and the district attorney. There's been a failure of leadership.
She won't talk to us even. I mean, she literally will not come outside and talk to us.
How long has the fence been up?
Friday.
And it's just going to stay up till...
Who knows? This is temporary. But who knows?
All these guys with the vests right here, these are the DA police that's usual security here. And they just got these new vests and this new tactical type gear stuff when we came out here and started protesting. So that's what they invest in, things to deter the people and put fear in the people with these new gadgets and things.
I've never seen a fence around a public office, ever. And that is a place that I've spent 20 years of my life trying to seek justice. And now it looks like a DMZ.
This is our building though. This is our building. How you gonna fence us out of our own building? How could there be trespassing at our building that we pay for? Our tax dollars go to this, and y'all fencing us out. Y'all keeping the people out of our own building.
That is our house. We're out there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Not one time has she come out and talked to us. You know, she needs to be listening to us humbly, and she needs to realize that she's in a position where she serves the people, and we are the people.
Frankly, she didn't have to put up a fence or a wall. Because the policies that have been in existence in our office built a wall all on their own.
We're going to continue to be out there at her office until we see what we need to see, which is charges filed against the two police that killed Stephon Clark.
The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. The whole damn system is guilty as hell.